I'm Steve Cornelius, Commonwealth Journal Sports Editor, and welcome to another edition of the Commonwealth Journal Sports Show. Today we'll be talking about, you got it, football. All the fall sports have ended except football, and this week start the playoffs. You either win the game, advance to the next round, or you go home. And that's the case this week, especially on a local area when Southwestern and Pulaski battle each other in the first round of playoffs. This was, by the way, was a football given to us by the Pulaski County High School football team after they won their 2014 Class 5A state championship. Every team in Kentucky has their illusions and hopes of going to the state final game, playing on the carpet, and winning a state title, just like Pulaski did in 2014. In today's episode, first segment, we'll be talking to Michael Childers. He's a beat writer for Southwestern High School football, and we'll be talking about the Pulaski-Southwestern matchup. They played 2 weeks ago in a game that went into overtime. Southwestern pulled it out by winning a score in overtime, and it should be another great battle. We'll be sort of doing a play on whose team will win. He'll be taking the Southwestern side, I'll be taking the Pulaski side, and we're sort of bringing out some points about why we think this team has a better chance of winning. It's anybody's guess who will win this game. It may go down to overtime, but it'll definitely be a battle to the end. Should be a great game. Also, we'll be talking to Chase Neal. He's a beat writer for Somerset High School football, and we'll be talking about Somerset football and their playoffs starting. They will match up with Danville, one of the biggest rivalries in the state of Kentucky. Somerset handily won the game earlier in the season, but comes to playoffs, comes to Somerset and Danville, expect another good game. Hey, we're here with Michael Childers, beat writer for the Southwestern High School football team. Once again, we got Southwestern Pulaski in the playoffs.
Yeah, it seems like, it's every year these two teams seem to meet up in the postseason. Usually it's in the regional championship game, but with the new playoff alignment, they're in the first round. So it's a little bit different, but it's still playoff football.
Yeah, so looking back, I think 2006 was the last time they played each other in the first round
Yeah.
in the playoffs, and that was a real word because they played back-to-back games, where this one they at least had a one game in between. But
Yeah, I think that was my freshman year in high school. They played in 2006 at Southwestern. It was like 48-10,
yeah.
And then the next week it was like 48-12, and it was mud and raining and everything. So that was pretty interesting.
Okay. So we got playoffs coming up, and this is a do or die for one of the teams. I mean, because winner goes on, loser season's over with.
Yeah, it's a shame that one of our local teams has to go home this early because they seem to be playing really good football right now, both teams, and it's a shame that one of them has to go home this early in the year.
And really, this happened because the playoff system changed. Used to before, we were teamed up with another district and sort of had a regional tournament, which you could play each other's second round, but you never got to play your same district team's first round.
Yeah, it's a lot different now because they put the teams, the district 1 through 4, and Southwestern was the 4 seed, then Pulaski was the 1 seed. So it just turned out that they would draw each other in the first round.
Which would really been a shame last year because they were by far the two best teams in the region, which they matched for the regional title. But if they had the same system, they would have met in the second round instead of the third round.
Yeah, and over the last, since 2014 when those two have played each other a lot in the regional title games, there have been some really good games, but, if we're under that system now, we're playing in round 2, which it's a different feeling.
Mm-hmm. All right, we thought it would be a little fun is just do a point counterpoint. You're going to take the pro Southwestern side, and I'm going to take the pro Pulaski side, just giving reasons why you think Southwestern's going to win, and I'm going to give reasons why I think Pulaski's going to win. Go ahead and you start off with number 1.
Okay, number 1, Southwestern has momentum going to the playoffs as they have won 3 straight games. They have wins over South Laurel, Pulaski County, and Madison Central.
And Pulaski County, yes, there are 2 losses in a row, which doesn't happen a lot. But, they were against 2 games that didn't really have a lot of district bearings, and they lost a lot of players with injuries, which I know Southwestern's used to that. They had early in the season, but so they've had to make a lot of changes and everything. So I guess for number 1, yes, Southwestern has momentum. Pulaski is going through some changes. So, yes, we
like
agree on that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So, all right, number 2, Southwestern should be called the Road Warriors as they are 4-1 on the road this year. 4 of their victories have come away from the reservation, and this game happens to be away from the reservation.
For Pulaski, they're 15-2 in home playoff games since I think 2012, and they're 42-12 in home games since 2012, which is about a 78% home winning percentage.
Wow.
So it's they're other than that loss, I've had a few losses here lately, but of course they went that stretch and when they were going to state championships where they almost never lost.
Yeah.
at home.
Oh yeah. They were unbeatable at PC Field. It's kind of like everybody else's kryptonite, you know.
Why do you think that Southwestern has lost so much at home? I know they won the game last weekend at home, but it's sort of unusual that you win your.
It really is unusual that they've lost at home. I don't know. I guess it just. And they've played good teams at both home and away. I don't know, maybe just the momentum from, I guess, rising the occasion on the road. They play better, I guess.
And the away games have been just barn burners.
Yeah.
That one was overtime and 2-point conversions and just, they had to really, a couple of them are easier, but they had to really fight to win those.
Yeah, because Madison Southern, they went in overtime on a 2-point conversion. GRC, they scored a late touchdown, went for a 2-point conversion to win. South Laurel wasn't really close, and then of course the Pulaski County game was a close one in overtime.
Okay. Number 3.
All right, number 3, the Warriors won the October 25th matchup against Pulaski County by a final tally of 15-7 in overtime.
I'm not defending Pulaski, but I can take it as maybe they were overlooking Southwestern. They didn't have a lot to gain from this, and in Southwestern like I said, they're on a roll and they have something to prove, and I think it really. It rattled Pulaski's cage. Now, you can't overlook them now. If you do, you go home. But what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think Pulaski. They didn't really have anything to gain or lose because the seeds were already wrapped up. But Southwestern, I think, just wanted it more that night, and the injury to Drew Polson, I think, shocked PC, and they had to make some changes. But I think Southwestern just came out and they really just wanted to win that game.
But I think. In defense of Southwestern, what helps them is they had to win that South Laurel game, or we would be talking about them right now.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have to win the Pulaski game, but I think it just went into that momentum, and they built the momentum for themselves by winning those 3 in a row. And the South Laurel game was probably the biggest game of the season because it basically would have been their playoff game if they had lost that game.
Yeah, because if you lose to South Laurel, the PC game is just another game, and they're not even playing this week.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay, number 5.
All right. After having an injury-plagued regular season, the Warriors have all their starters back for the postseason. It seems like at the beginning of the year, every Southwestern player, somebody was hurt this week, somebody was hurt this week, and it was key starters, and it seems they're all back now.
Pulaski, unfortunately, has sort of been the reverse of what Southwestern was. They're now starting. They were pretty much, injury-free for the most part, the first part of the season. Like you talked about, Drew Polson, Jake Sloan had an injury.
Grand
Oaks is one. I think even Tolson got a little bit injured the last game. So they've been going through some injuries. And I think just like the growing pains of Southwest had to go through is changing people around, because I know at one point they were without a quarterback and they went back and forth on quarterback, which we'll talk later. But so they went some growing pains on trying to overcome these injuries. So, but I think they've had 2 games under their belts now. So I think now maybe they're more settled in with their new game plan.
All right, next one. Southwestern has not lost in the first round of the playoffs since the 2010 season when they were shut out by Whitley County 45-0. So they didn't make the playoffs in 2012 and 2013, but they have not lost in the first round since 2010.
Which Pulaski lost in the first round just, I think, 2017. But since 2012, Pulaski's played 28 playoff games and are 22-6. So, Pulaski, probably that 28 playoff games is probably something that not a lot of teams in the state can match. So they're definitely a playoff team. The coaching staff, not so much the players, but the coaching staff, and playoffs is just something that they're used to because they never went to the state finals 4 years in a row. So
there's a lot of teams in their history have never even played in 28 playoff games, and then Pulaski's played that in the last few years.
And even in the history of the 2 programs, Southwestern was sort of hitting in playoffs before Pulaski got to it. But then once Pulaski, I think the first time they won region was 2009, and they've sort of snowballed from there and everything. But I think now the programs are just right there on a level kill because especially the past 3 or 4 years has proved that.
Yeah, and you look at the overall series; it's separated by just 1 game now. So.
Yeah, exactly, and that's amazing that it went back. Over almost
1993, and it's when it started, and it's still
30-something years.
Yeah, you talk about a rivalry. There's not really one side that dominates. It just goes back and forth.
Right, it does. Okay,
Number 6, the Warriors have the three-headed monster rushing attack of Chase Stone, Tanner Wright, and Austin Barnes. Their passing game hasn't been, what it has been the last few years. And, against South Laurel, each of those runners had over 100 yards, and they're, seem to be playing really well right now, running the ball. And a lot of credit goes to the offensive line, too.
And really, they're interchangeable because I know, there for a couple of games, Chase Stone was just, getting 3 touchdowns and getting a lot of yardage. Now Tanner Wright is sort of taking off some of the load, so now they were able to distribute the running much more than they had.
Yeah, and you look at their stats, like they'll finish with 100 yards, and they'll have like only 5 carries each, So it just depends, who's hot on that drive, and they just keep going to them. And Tanner Wright, of course, missed the first part of the year, and he's available now, and he's really come on, and he's just a sophomore, and Chase Stone as well.
And for Pulaski, they got sort of the two-headed monster in Tristan Cox and Jake Sloan. I think Jake Sloan had got injured in the Southwestern game, so he didn't really get a lot of touches. Hopefully for Pulaski, he'll be back. Tristan Cox, of course, they have sort of moved him over to be a linebacker, and I think it's where his forte is going to be in college. But I really see them using him more as a running back in that next game, and maybe they just didn't want to use him as much, and they've got him in packages. So I see those two being a big key for Pulaski to be able to win this game, is using those two, because those are the two. They look like college athletes. They are college athletes.
Yeah.
They're big kids, and they're talented. So I think that's going to be Pulaski's bread and butter to be able to, if they want to win this game.
Yeah, they're playmakers, make big plays when they're supposed to, and they're definitely playmakers.
Because Jake Sloan had a huge, and that's one of the things we talked about him when he had talked about his greatest catch, and he said probably that one big catch he had when he's all around the line, and that was on 4th down, which really was a difference in last year's game.
Yeah, if he doesn't catch that ball, they don't beat Southwestern, don't win district, and they may not go on to win region. You never know.
Right.
So.
Okay.
All right, number 7. Pulaski County has lost back-to-back games for the first time since early in the 2018 season when they lost to Wayne County and Corbin. The Maroons have been outscored in those games by a margin of 53-14.
And sort of like I touched on before, I think, Pulaski has had they've had a great season up to these last 2 games. Had a hiccup. And of course, the first game was a lot about Southwestern, but, they had to deal with some injuries. And, when you're dealing with, trying to fill 22 positions and moving kids around, I think it takes a little time. And Southwestern has experienced that, because I know they've moved around kids.
Yeah.
And probably for Southwestern, these probably the last 3 games have probably been the only 3 games these kids have probably, everybody sort of almost played in the same position each game.
Because we had a different person playing quarterback here, different running back, different safety, and they were just moving kids in and out. And I think they've got them where they want them now.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, number 8. This will be the 4th playoff meeting between Pulaski County and Southwestern since 2014. The district champ, the number 1 seed, is 1-2 in the playoff matchup, and the Maroons won the district title this season. So there you go.
But like the last 3 times they played in playoffs, Pulaski's won it, so 3-0 against Southwestern playoffs since 2014. And like I said, it's for the last time Southwestern. And I don't know. I went back all the way to what it has on KHA, but I don't know if they've been played that many more times other than 2006.
Yeah, I think 06 was the first time they met in the playoffs.
Yeah. So that means Pulaski has a 3-1 edge in playoffs, but. How much will that? Because it's one thing to play a game even in district or it has bearings, but when you're playing all playoff games and especially if you get down touchdown, 2 touchdowns, that this could be the end of your season, especially if you're a senior. How tough does that make it for those kids?
Oh yeah, it's like if I don't make a play here, if I don't play my best game, I'm going home forever. So I think that Pulaski has done a really good job. They. The last few years have lost in the regular season, but when it counts the most, they come out and they make the plays and do what they need to, and get the region championship trophy.
Okay. All right, number 9.
Number 9, Warrior quarterback Blake Burton has taken the quarterback role. They were switching in and out throughout the year, but he's really taken that the last 2 games, and he's playing the best he's played all year. He's thrown for over 100 yards in each of those 2 games.
On Pulaski's side, Caleb Adams has stepped up to be the backup quarterback. And, he was thrown into probably the toughest situation he's probably been in his life. You go thrown in the middle, not just before where they had practice, but he's got thrown in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
they still got beat pretty good by Tate's Creek, but he looked like he was a little more comfortable. So I think he's going to have that behind him. Now, I didn't know this, but Coach Hines said he had been the quarterback his freshman year. I think one of the quarterbacks they'd had at the time went out. So he has done quarterback, but he's not done in a while.
Yeah.
So he said, he is an experienced quarterback. He just had not been a quarterback in quite a while. But I think for Southwestern, I think with Burton, there for, I guess, a stretch of 4 or 5 games, they were just, they would switch even during the games.
Yeah.
So I think now they went with him more, which allows Streeter to be a receiver, and I think that's helped him a lot too.
Yeah, because if you put Streeter at quarterback, that takes away your top receiver. And the last 2 games, Streeter has had some really good catches. Had that big catch against PC to put him up early 7-0, and even Mason Hibbard coming into the fold. And so instead of Xavier playing quarterback, he can focus on playing wide out, and Blake Burton's finding the receivers really well right now.
And I think too, in some points too, I think the kids had felt pressure because I know one game, I think they started out with Blake, and then they wasn't really doing well. The offense was his fault or not. So then they put Streeter in, so then you sort of, it has to hurt the confidence a little bit, so they've got away from that.
But yeah, I think Blake Burton's confidence right now is a high for the season because he's made some really good throws these last 2 weeks, and if you're Southwestern, that has to make you happy.
All right, number 10.
All right, number 10, last but not least, the Southwestern defense has given up single-digit point totals in each of the last 2 games. The Warriors gave up 7 points to Pulaski County and then 6 points to Madison Central.
Okay. Pulaski has by an average, has outscored opponents by 8 points per game, whereas Southwestern has been outscored by 3 points per game. Now, Pulaski, they're really the only hiccup has been these past 2 games. Whether that trend will continue or not, I don't know, but they've been some tough games, but they have been able to outscore their opponents.
Yeah, Pulaski, you look at their record, and they've played some really good teams. Lexington Catholic, Corbin, Wayne County. That has some really quality wins, and and like you said, they lost to Southwestern, but you lose your starting quarterback in the middle of the game. It takes a lot to come back from that. And then last week against Tate's Creek, it just wasn't meant to be with Tate's Creek and Luke Doobie at quarterback.
You've covered the Southwestern team the whole year, and it's had a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of downs early on and through the middle of it. Have you seen a difference, and especially after the Pulaski win or the South Laurel win, because the South Laurel win was huge too. Seeing a demeanor in the kids and everything.
I think after those 2 district losses at home, I think a lot of people are really upset and just can we do this? And then they go and beat South Laurel, gives them a little bit of confidence. They're in the playoffs, and then that win over PC was huge for the fan base. Everybody on social media, the fans, they were all going crazy and happy about the program. And like Jason Foley said, it's a process. You can't just change it in one day.
Mm-hmm.
And the process is working well for them so far, and they've won 3 in a row heading into the playoffs.
Do you think Coach Foley was doubting himself at any point, or I know we're talking earlier, he just sort of seemed depressed because of the injuries, and it seemed like he grew more confident as he got the kids back because he knew what he had, and it's always tough for a coach if you got some of your better players sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of high expectations with him coming in, and then those injuries kind of they're up here, and then you get those injuries, and then a lot of people are like are the Warriors going to be able to pull this off? Can they do this? And then once they got everybody back and got the offense going, and they've got everything clicking on all cylinders, I think everybody's like they're going to be okay.
If you look back at the history of Pulaski, quarterback's a tough position. A lot of times they get injured. You look at Pulaski, Chris Muse, he got injured. Wiley Kane got injured.
Yeah, Riley Hall.
Zach Eason got injured in the first regional semi-state game after they won the region. They played Highlands, and he got injured, I think, in the first, second place.
Yeah.
So he's been used to, I think Coach Hines has been used to dealing with having these good quarterbacks. And we talked early in the season, he's been blessed with great quarterbacks every year. And Polston seems to be as good as maybe all of them.
Yeah.
He's tracking. He's only a sophomore, but they've also, some way along when them get injured and hurt, and he's had to make the adjustments. And a lot of times he's been able to do that and carry on, not even missing a beat. So
yeah, like you said, you just listed like a who's list of great quarterbacks, and like I said, they have had those injuries, but they've been able to bring in different packages to succeed. And I think this Friday, Johnny Hines will have something up his sleeve that he hasn't shown. And with different players without their starting quarterback.
What do you think it'll come down to in this game? It was a, course, both guys are gamblers. I mean,
Yeah.
Foley, we already seen he gambles for 2-point conversions, and Johnny Hines does the same thing. A lot of times on the fourth down, it could be middle of the field, he'll go for it.
Yeah.
So it'll really be exciting to see how these guys will, work it out like that.
Teams come out, if Pulaski, is motivated after that loss, they'll come out and they'll have a strong showing. If Southwestern, if they have a lot of momentum, it could be a really good game. So I'm excited about it. I can't wait.
All right, man. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, we're here with Chase Neal, our beat writer for Somerset High School football, and we're getting ready to go into the playoffs. And once again, Somerset look like they're in a position to maybe take a long playoff run.
Oh yeah, they've had a really good season. Finished 9-1. They're looking to do some damage in the playoffs.
Okay. First game against Danville. Of course, these two teams have had a long history of rivalries, and over the past years, I think really since Coach Lucas has taken over, he's really been able to beat Danville. I don't know if he's even. They lost him that one year. Danville won the state, but other than that, I think he's won every game. So, talk about the last time they played Danville. And
Last time they played Danville, it started out pretty lopsided. They scored on them quite a bit early, but Danville did. They showed some athleticism. They showed some playmaking ability, and they scored on them. Ended up 40-21 final, and they've got some playmakers going into the playoff game. But I do think that Somerset definitely has the edge. They have a more talented roster. I think that they're in position to take this playoff game.
And I think too, talking to Coach Lucas, and I've never looked at Danville's roster, but he said they've got athletes, but they're really young.
They do.
Where
Yeah.
Somerset is more, they've got a real experienced
yeah.
group. And the juniors play like seniors. I mean, they're experienced. They've played probably since they were sophomores and freshmen, and they've got seniors. So I think that,
Yeah.
because especially with high school kids, the difference between a senior and a freshman is a big difference.
Yeah, Danville definitely has some freshmen and sophomore that those are their main playmakers. Those are the guys that they go to, and like you said, Somerset, their guys are seniors, juniors. They have some experienced players going into the playoff game, and I think that'll really give them the edge.
Midway through the season, Somerset lost a big cog in their offense, and Alex Miller, who we were both real high on.
Yeah.
And we didn't really expect as far as a letdown. But talk a little bit about Somerset after that happened and how they've been able to recover or play without him.
Yeah, Miller, he was dominant for their offense, and I think they did take a little bit of a step back. I think especially over the last couple of weeks, like the Corbin game last week, I think they've really done a good job trying to fill those holes. Senior Jace Bruner, he's really stepped up. He's a guy, he doesn't get a lot of carries, but he makes the most of the carries that he does get. And a guy they've been looking to a lot at the goal line would be Mikey Garland. He's had several red zone touchdowns over the past couple of weeks. He's had a lot of rushing touchdowns inside the goal line, kind of inside that area. So they've had a couple guys step up, and Cam Austin too. He's been pretty effective. So they've turned to their other guys, and I think they're getting it going.
Have you seen their offense change a lot since, because I mean, especially the one that stood in my mind was the Beechwood game where they just kept running, and Miller would pick up 5, 6, 7, 8 yards every time, and then it started opening up stuff for passing and Grundy and everything.
Yeah.
Now they don't have that as much, but they've still got a lot of weapons.
Yeah, I think before the Miller injury, they were throwing it a lot less. They're really, they ran their offense through the run game. They would pound it for, like you said, 5, 6 yards and try to let Miller break off a big one, or they would pound it and set Sharon up for a big gain.
Mm-hmm.
And their offense has changed a lot. I'm seeing Kai Sharon throw the ball a lot more. They're rolling him out. They're throwing it. They're throwing a lot of screen passes, throwing it downfield. They're trying to make plays with their quarterback rather than their running backs, while still trying to pick up yards here and there with their runners.
Was the fact when Miller went out also an emotional thing because all these kids were attached to him, and it's just I know he wasn't just get injured. I mean, he broke a leg and it was really traumatic. That probably was something about it too.
Yeah, I think that especially maybe the week after and stuff, they came out a little bit flustered, and I think even in the Hazard game after he went out, I think that it did take a toll on their offense a little bit. But I think now going into the playoffs, they put themselves in a good position. They've rebooted that offense, and they're going into the playoff pretty strong.
Do they seem to sort of start slower? Because I know in the Washington game, because they won that game, but they started sort of slow in that game. Even the Lexington Christian game, I think, didn't they get a little bit behind and then sort of come back? Has that been a trend or?
Kinda. I don't think the offense is explosive right out of the gate, but still every week they've been able to get their offense going.
Okay. Let's talk about the two big players. I mean, obviously, Kaya Sharon, everything goes around him. He's a quarterback. He's already, he's got an offer from UK. The other kid that we don't really talk a lot about, Cade Grundy, I mean, he does it all. He's offense, does interceptions on defense. Nobody wants to punt to him because he's dangerous on punt return and kickoff returns.
Yeah, Cade Grundy's the most explosive player on this team. I mean, I really believe that he's a guy. He can take a screen pass for 50, 60, 70 yards anytime he touches the ball. And yeah, anymore teams they're just kicking it through the dirt every time they kick it off to him because they don't want the ball anywhere near him because every time he touches it, it seems like he's going for yardage.
Talk about Sharon a little bit too. I mean, he too is. I mean, he can pass
Oh, yeah.
all over the field, and then if it's not there, he's able to run and
Yeah,
and he's make better decisions too.
Yeah, he's been a really good decision maker this year. We haven't seen a lot of interceptions out of him. I think he only has like 3 or 4 on the year, and like one of them was a tip drill. He really has been a great decision maker this year, and also his ball placement. His ball placement's really good. I mean, we're just talking about Grundy being explosive. He couldn't be as explosive without Sharon. I mean, he gets down the field, he beats his guys, but Sharon's the one that puts it right in his arm. So they're a really good 1-2 combination. They work really good together, and it's a great combination. They find ways to make plays together. And yeah, like you said, if Sharon doesn't see anything open, he's going to run it, and he can make guys miss. He can jump over guys. He can get it down the field even with his
Just
legs
scary
too.
to watch sometimes.
Oh yeah, he's definitely an athletic playmaker, and those guys are a really good offensive combination for Somerset.
Right. And it seemed like last year Sharon really had some of his better games in those stretch of playoff games. I mean,
Yeah.
Of course, I know he come off injury last year, but he was really just seemed like, I don't know if it was because he was getting more confident in offense, but he really played just probably his best football games in those playoff games.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to say Sharon was up and down last year, but he definitely has taken a big step up this year. I mean, he was good last year. You saw the potential. You saw everything that he had. You saw the tools that he had to be such a good player. And this year, he's really broken out. He's got his accuracy up. He's got his ball placement a lot better, and he's just overall better decision maker, better playmaker. Really, really good player for the Jumpers. I mean, I said that they built the offense around the run game, but when the run game was really working, that's how they got their passing game going, and Sharon's been just absolutely amazing for them.
Just to note, next week we'll take a week off. I'll be off, so we will not be having a show next week. But we'll pick up the following week, and we'll sort of get into the football playoffs, and then start looking ahead to basketball. Basketball will be starting up towards the end of November, 1st of December. So we'll talk to some coaches and have some coaches interviews and sort of give you a look ahead at basketball. Also, just a reminder too, we will be naming our all-county fall sports teams in volleyball, boys soccer, and girls soccer and cross country. So be looking for those in the Commercial newspaper, honoring the best of the athletes in the local area in the fall sports.